In this video, we're going to be using Visual Basic to create a simple little app that gives us the area of a rectangle. Now, for those that aren't too mathematically minded, the area of a rectangle is simply the length of the rectangle times by the width. So if I give you an example of how this app runs, type in the length as 5, width as 2, click calculate, and we get the area as 10 meters squared, assuming these are both meters as well. So that's our app. Let's close that off, and I'll just close this solution, and then we can get started. So once you're in Visual Studio, head up to the File menu, make yourself a new project. Now the project we're making today is in Visual Basic, and it's going to be a Windows Forms app. The name of your app, I might just call it Area of Rectangle, and the location that we're going to save it, just save it in your documents. I'm going to save on my desktop. I'm going to call it the same name, so Area of Rectangle, but make sure you're saving into your Documents folder somewhere. Click OK when you're done, and you will see that you've got a blank form here ready to go to create the app. So let's get started by bringing out a label, and the label is going to have the text on it. So head over to your Properties box, Area of a Rectangle. We also want to give this label a meaningful name, so in the Design section here, look for the name. Give it the name LBL, which stands for label, and I might just call it header, so label header. Now to make that a little bit bigger, you just need to go back up to the font section here, and just click on those little dots. Might make it size 16 and bold. Click OK. And there's a nice little header. Next thing I'm going to do is grab a couple more labels. Let's bring out one to start with. Now this one's going to say the word length. So in the text option here, just choose length. For the font, I just want you to bump the size up to 10. Click OK. And you want to give this a name as well, so we'll just call this LBL length. Okay, that's that one done. To keep a lot of those settings in place, I'm just going to press Ctrl-C to copy that label and then Ctrl-V to paste it. And bring it over here now. I'm going to change the text that's inside of that label and write width. Just coming down a little bit, we'll give it a new name. So instead of label 1, call it LBL width. Okay, that's our two labels looking good there. I might bring in another label, so I'm going to copy this one, Ctrl-C to copy, Ctrl-V to paste. It's going to go down the bottom here, and it's going to have the text area. Now the font for this one is going to be in bold, so change the font to bold. Press OK. Don't forget to give it a meaningful name, so LBL area. Press enter. Okay, so far so good. The next thing we're going to do is bring in a couple of text boxes. So scrolling down, got our text boxes here. Let's bring out a text box that goes up here. Let's give it the name TXT, which is short for text box. We'll call this one length. Also going to go up and change the font to be size 10 as well, so the same as the labels. So anyone that types in this box is going to have size 10 font coming out of it. I'm just going to press Ctrl-C to copy and Ctrl-V to paste that text box. And I just need to rename this new one to TXT width. Okay, so that's over there in my properties. I've done that. Next thing I might do is bring in a button that goes just in here. So let's pop back up the top here and grab our button out. I'm just going to make it the same width as those buttons. As those text boxes. And I might change the size of the font to 10 as well. I can make the button a little bit bigger. Alright, now the button is going to have the text on it, calculate. And it also needs a name with a bit of meaning, so we'll call it BTN, which stands for button, and we'll call it calculate. So button, calculate. Starting to look good. Now the area down here, we're going to put the answer in a label. So when we work out the length and the width, we press calculate, and the answer needs to appear down here. And it's going to be in a label, this one. That way the user can't edit it. Okay, so in the label there, just click on it, and we'll give it the name LBL answer. At the top, the text, we're just going to delete it all together. There's going to be no text in there at the moment, so it'll be empty when we start. And the font just needs to be bold and size 10. Click OK. And it looks like there's nothing there because we got rid of the text that was inside that label, but trust me, it's still there, and we're going to populate that label with some data once we work out the actual area of the rectangle. Now the next thing we're going to do over in this space here is draw a picture of a rectangle. And the way you do that, you need to actually download something called a Power Pack off the internet before you can draw rectangles in Visual Basic. So over in Google, you'll need to type in Windows Power Pack. Okay, when you type in Windows Power Pack, the first link that comes up is the one you want to click on. When you click on it, you just need to scroll down a little bit and download that Power Pack. Okay, from there you can install the Power Pack on your computer, which will then allow you to draw rectangles and other shapes in Visual Basic. Okay, so I've already installed it on my computer, just so we're not wasting any time. And once you've installed it on your computer and open Visual Basic, you'll need to come over to your toolbox and just right click on any of these tools over here. And when you right click, I want you to select Choose Items. Now in the .NET Framework Components tab, I just want you to filter by typing in Power Pack. Whoops. So just type in the word power. And you can see here's our Power Pack tools that we just installed. Alright, the ones you need to check are the rectangle shape, oval shape and line shape. They're the ones you're going to use most frequently. The other two we probably won't even touch in this course. Okay, so make sure you've checked these three boxes. Click OK. And now when you scroll down into the bottom of your toolbox, you've got a line shape, an oval shape and a rectangle shape that you can now use to draw in your Visual Basic apps. So obviously we want the rectangle shape, so grab that and we're just going to draw ourselves a rectangle. It's just going to go out here to the right somewhere. I'll make it look something like that. Now we're going to jazz it up a bit. What we're going to be doing is we're going to pop over the side here and we're going to change the fill style first of all. There's all sorts of different styles you can have for your rectangle. Okay, it's just a matter of what's going to suit you. Alright, so I'm going to go, let's just try dotted grid and see how that looks. Not bad. What we might do is change the fill color though to something that's a bit more fun, I suppose. I'll choose yellow. Okay, that dotted grid doesn't look so good, so just play around with a few of these until you get a nice pattern that looks nice and professional. There you go, that'll do. The diagonal cross one will be my fill style. Okay, so we just changed the fill style and the fill color of our rectangle. If you want, you can play with the borders and whatnot, but I think it looks fine as it is. The next thing we need to do now is just add a couple of labels to help our users out. So I'm going to add another label down the bottom here. And it's going to say the word length. Like usual, we give it a meaningful name. So we'll call this one label length 2. We've already got this label over here called label length, so we'll call this one label length 2. And don't forget to change the font size if you want. Just make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to read. I'm just going to copy that by pressing Ctrl C and then Ctrl V to paste it. Over on the side here, we'll change the text to width. And we'll change the name of that label to LBL width 2 and press enter. Okay, remember we called it width 2 because we've already got a label called width over here and we can't have the same names for our objects. Alright, so that's looking pretty good now. I think we can begin our coding. Alright, we will still add a few more things to this form shortly, but we'll do the coding. Actually, before we do the coding, I just realised we've got to rename this form. At the moment it's called Form 1. Okay, so in your properties, let's give it the name FRM, let's call it rectangle. And we just scroll down. Actually, no, we want to scroll up the text that we want to write. So to replace Form 1 up there in the top left of our app, we'll just call it area of a rectangle. Okay, and you can see now in the top left of our app it says area of a rectangle. Alright, so time to get started on the coding. Let's double click on this calculate button. When we double click on that calculate button, up pops some of the code, and you can see in this section just here we've created a piece of code that's going to handle when we click button calculate. Okay, so what is going to happen when we click on that calculate button? Basically, we want to read the number the user types into the length box, and we also want to read the number that goes in the width box. When we calculate them, we want to spit out a final answer, which is the final area down the bottom here. Okay, so basically the user is typing in any old number here, so it's a variable that we need to put into these boxes. Okay, so let's declare those variables now. So up the top we're going to write dim to declare in memory the length, and we're going to use the data type single. Okay, and we'll do the same for the width. So we'll declare in memory the width as single. Okay, and then finally we're going to be declaring the area. So dim area as a double. And just to quickly explain why we chose these data types, okay, the length and the width, we chose the single data type because we can have either whole numbers or decimal point numbers typed into these boxes. Okay, so that's why we chose the singles. And then for the area, we chose a double, which is basically the same as a single data type. It allows us to it allows us to have numbers with decimal points in it, but it can hold bigger numbers. Okay, because we're timesing these two smaller numbers together, we're going to end up with a bigger number for the area. Okay, so that's why we chose a double. The single data types take up less room in memory, so that's why we chose them for the length and the width, and just had a double for the area. Alright, so basically saying we can have numbers put into those text boxes, and they can be decimal, well, they can have decimal points in them as well. Okay, I think I got that out right. I'm not very good at explaining data types, but hopefully you get the idea. Alright, so once we've declared those variables, we can do the maths and start to calculate the area. Okay, so we're going to write in length equals, and what we want to do first of all is get the number that the user types into this box. Alright, so length will equal text length dot text. Okay, and then on the next line we're going to write width equals, and then we're going to write in text width dot text. Okay, so that's basically saying the variable length that we assigned up here, its value is going to be whatever was written into the length text box. As for width, whatever's written in the width text box will be the value for the width. Alright. Now at the moment, when the user types into these text boxes, okay, it's basically a string data type. So that can be either letters or numbers. Okay, we want it to be numbers so we can do the maths. So what we're going to do now, around the outside of text length.text and text width.text, we need to add in VAL and then put text length.text in brackets, and the same for the text width. So VAL and then whack in brackets text width.text. So just look carefully at what I've done here. And the reason we put val in, what it's going to do is going to convert the string of characters in that text box and convert it into a number or an integer that we can work with. Alright, so now we'll be able to do the calculations. So the calculation will be area equals length times, whoops, not length, width. Okay, that's simple. So this area variable is simply going to look at what we typed into the first text box, what we typed into the second text box, and times those numbers together. Okay, once it's got the answer, we need to output it into this label that goes down here. Remember that label's hidden at the moment because we've got no text in it. So what we'll do is we'll just write label answer dot text equals area. Let's test that out and see if it works. So I'll just press start up the top. Fingers crossed we've got no errors. I'll just take a moment to load. Alright, you can see we've already got an issue over here, but we'll fix that in a moment. Let's make it 2 for the length, 2 for the width, that's a square, and calculate it. We've got the area as 4, so that's times those two numbers together. Let's try a bigger one. We'll put in 10 for the length, 5 for the width, calculate it, and we get 50. Okay, so that's going good. What I might do, just after we get the answer, I'm going to put the ampersand sign and in quotation marks write meters squared. Now I can't just write the squared number in, it'll come up as M2. What we're going to have to do is go to our start menu and open up our character map. Okay, you can just search for character map and it'll come up. It's a little app that gives you all the different characters here. Now we're using the Microsoft Sans Serif font here in Visual Basic. Okay, so make sure you look for that font. And you're looking for this little superscript 2. Select that, copy it, and you can pop back to Visual Basic now and paste it in just by pressing Ctrl V. And you can see now I've got meters squared. So now when we type in our length and width, the answer will come back in meters squared. So I'll type 10 and 5, calculate it. You can see we get meters squared now after our answer, which is a little bit more accurate. Okay, so we've got our calculations working, and that's our code all done. So just double check that your code matches mine. That's all we typed in today. So when we click on button calculate, we declare 3 variables to start with: length, width, and area. Okay, the length is going to be whatever value we type in to the length text box. Remember, VAL will convert it into a number for us, okay, that we can work with our calculations. The width, okay, is whatever was written in the width text box, and the VAL here, just like before, will convert it into a number that we can work with when we're calculating the answer. Finally, the area is going to be the length times the width. Okay, so there's two numbers the user typed in will give us the area, and then we output the answer into the label answer. Alright, hopefully that made sense. And going back to our form here, you might have noticed when we ran the app, part of our form was getting cut off. Okay, so there's an easy way to fix that. Just click on your form. Over in your properties here, we're looking for auto scale mode. Just need to scroll down a little bit to find it. It's under layout here. You need to change it from font to none. Okay, and that's probably going to fix our problem. So if we click start, and you can see now we get a full window where we can see absolutely everything in our app. The last thing I want to show you what to do is a tooltip. Okay, I'll show you what a tooltip is in a moment. If you just scroll down in your toolbox, you'll find this tooltip option. Just pick it up, drag it, and drop it anywhere on your app. And you'll see that it appears just down here. Just click on that once, and I want you to give it a name. Call it TLT, that stands for tooltip, and we'll just call it tips. So TLT tips. Alright, and basically tooltips are little white boxes that appear to help the user, well, explains to the user what's going on in your app. So if I was to hover over this text box here, a little white caption would appear telling me what I would have to type into that box. Same with the width, and same with calculate. So I'll show you how it works. We click on length here on this text box and go right to the bottom of the properties, and you'll see tooltip on tooltips here, where we can type in a little tooltip or a tip on what we need to type into this box. So I'm just going to write quickly, type in the length of the rectangle. Then I'm going to do the same for the width. Come across to the tooltip and just write type in the width of the rectangle. And then on the calculate button, we'll put in a final tooltip. Press to calculate the area of the rectangle. Now when I run my app, I'll show you what the tooltip actually is. If I hover over this white box, nothing happens. Oh, there it is. I was a bit worried there for a moment, but you can see the tooltip appears. It says type in the length of the rectangle. So I'll type in a length, Now I go to width and hover over width. Okay, might have to just move my mouse around for a moment. It doesn't want to work. There it is. It just came up and disappeared, so it was working. And calculate, that's an easy one. When you hover over calculate, press to calculate the area of the rectangle. And there we go, we get our answer. So that's our app fully working. Hopefully it worked as well as mine. There's the code again if you'd like to pause the video and just have a read through how to make that little app.